Hello. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, now I can. Hi.
Okay.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Hanging in there. As much as we can, right?
Hello. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going, Amanda?
Pretty good. How are you, Amanda?
Good. Good. I feel like we finally have a little direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So for some of the rules, even changed today. So
Yeah.
we have direction, but they're changing.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about that. I'm, yeah, definitely interested in the paycheck protection. My banker is not probably pleased with the volume of contact that I have sent his way. I was like, I'd like to be first in line. I'd like to be first in line.
Yeah, I think bankers are getting pretty used to being contacted a lot right now.
Yep. He's keeping a good disposition, which is great.
So Branka on the line is a banker. So Branka, you getting a lot of calls?
Oh, yeah. We are getting a lot of calls. And what I'm not surprised at that, but what I am surprised is that I'm able to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point, we'll stop keeping up, I don't know. But for now, we are doing pretty good, making folks happy and giving them options internally, at least. So.
Hey, Judy.
Hi. Oh my goodness, I'm seeing familiar faces out there. That's awesome.
There are.
This is great. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I see Sam's here. I feel like I'm at the romper room. Remember the old, those of you that are old enough will remember the romper room?
Yep.
That's
Or
how I
Holly
feel.
Squares. I mean, just to throw that out there.
That's not where they wore the ears, is it?
What's that?
No,
Romper room.
that's the Mickey Mouse, whatever it is, the Mickey Mouse show, whatever. What the heck was it?
I
Same
don't.
format though, right? Wasn't it a similar format?
I think it was actually a similar format. You never know. You just never know. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to make sure that everyone can see the slide on your screen.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to thank, I have my colleague Amanda Arnold Rodriguez, which has been helping with us with our downtown businesses. And so we're going to start by saying I'm Judy McKinney-Cherry. I'm the Executive Director for the Schuyler County Partnership for Economic Development. And I have sort of the privilege of being able to feel really like totally responsible for the health and welfare of our businesses here in Schuyler County. And so as part of our effort to provide support, we have put together a series of roundtables. We did this by industry. So our first one was our beverage and food industry. Our second one was last evening, and that was hospitality. And then this one is really sort of geared towards all sorts of businesses, but really sort of looking at our downtown businesses in particular, because we think that there's an opportunity for us to really sort of form a coalition to really come out of this thing stronger if we're thinking about our villages and our businesses downtown. I know there are others on the call, that's fine. It is designed to be interactive, so you'll have to bear with me as last night, I didn't realize we had all these questions in the chat room. So Amanda, you're gonna have to like manage that for me and make sure I don't just keep going and ignore the fact that there are people asking questions in the chat. So as I said, this is our third one, and at the end of tonight, we'll ask the question, is this something where we should reconvene and do something like this, you know, in a week or two, just to sort of have the conversation, because things are changing literally daily as we're going. So what we're going to cover is sort of an introduction of sort of why we're here, which we just did, a discussion of the different resources that we have, both the SBA resources as well as some of the ones that we're talking about doing here in Schuyler County. We're going to talk a little bit about the unemployment insurance update, and then we'll have an opportunity to sort of share some of the ideas that I've heard from other places around the country, and then also sort of what we're doing here locally in terms of coping strategies. So does that sound okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So so first, I'm just going to start by sharing that all small businesses, actually, especially in this time of uncertainty, all small businesses should be protecting their cash positions and asking for relief across the board, whether that's for your electric bill, for any of your outstanding loans that you might have with financial institutions, anything like that, you should be asking for relief. If you have access to bank credit, maintain that. If you don't have a line of credit from your financial institution, you certainly, if you don't already have that in place, you should put that in place. And I know we have Branka on the line, so she can maybe add something to that as well. And then inquire if there's a deferral that's being offered by your financial institution for any of your outstanding mortgages that are related to your business. Now, I can share with you that the SBA has provided, essentially they're paying during, and I want to say it's, I'm doing this from memory, but I think it's maybe 3 or 4 months, maybe 5, of if you've got an SBA loan, this is part of the relief package. And so what they're doing is actually paying the principal, the interest, and any of the fees on any of the loans for a set period of time. And what I can't remember is whether that is 3 months or 4 months. I don't know. Branka, do you have any idea what that's going to be?
For the SBA?
Yeah.
We're having a hard time with the PPP program because they said, okay, so here's relief. Go to your financial institutions, but not guiding us. So we find ourselves in that pickle of people calling, but not having the information to give folks because they haven't figured out the details. You know, what is really the extent of the application? What is going to be required? Is it going to be regular SBA loan requirements that are absolutely, they're very large. They demand a lot.
Yep.
So we're still figuring it out.
Yep.
And I can definitely always keep in contact with you when we know more.
Yeah.
To let you know.
Yeah, as we go through this, I have a little bit of information that might actually help you. I'm not sure. I'm kind of tied into some other programs and organizations throughout the country. So I'm actually getting information. My guess is probably faster than some of the institutions are. So you're going to see some of that a little bit later. So again, you know, the financial institutions, if they, and most of them do offer SBA products. And I did just find my notes. And what was in the CARE Act was that the SBA will cover all loan payments on SBA loans, and this includes the principal, the interest, the fees for 6 months. So, so that's actually, so if So if you already have an SBA loan, there is a 6-month, it's not forgiveness, but the SBA is paying the amount for that. And then a new loan, if you have a new loan, they're also going to cover that. So the resources, we're going to talk about the economic injury disaster loan. We're going to talk about the injury grant that is out there, that $10,000 grant. And we're going to talk about the Paycheck Protection Program, which is what Bronca was just talking about. And I actually have a sample that I'll show you. I have a sample of the application that the SBA is going to be asking the banks to consider. And then we'll talk about the Express Bridge Loan, and then some of just a little bit around the 7A and the 504 loans. So the economic injury disaster loan, this is the one that I'm recommending that everyone should apply for this. It is live today. It has changed from when it was first announced to yesterday. It's had some pretty significant changes in how you apply and how you complete the application. So I will say this, it's available to essentially any business. It's not for traditional farmers. So if you're a traditional farmer, there's money in other parts of the CARE Act that's not in this particular loan program. But our wineries, our manufacturers, and that's what we talked about on Monday. We talked about this and said, you know, if you're manufacturing and your NAICS code and your EIN is tied to manufacturing, you're covered. And so that has now been confirmed as well. So this is a loan that you can qualify up to $2 million. The rate is 3 3/4% for for-profit businesses, and it's 2.75 for nonprofits. And it's interesting because originally there was an understanding that if you were a not-for-profit, that you had to be a 501c3 or a 501c19. And then there's been clarification now that C6s and C4s can also apply. So again, my feeling is it doesn't cost you anything to apply, and it doesn't take but about 15 minutes. And so why wouldn't you apply even if you're not sure that you really do qualify? So it's sort of like the DRI for Watkins Glen. You know, we weren't supposed to qualify for it, but why not apply and see what happens? And so it worked. The maturity for the EIDL is 30 years. If you are approved for a loan for less than $25,000, there's no collateral. Over $25,000, there will be a need for a collateral. They'll take it no matter what the existing liens are. So this SBA, because this is directly with US Treasury and SBA. So this is not through a bank. This is direct. And so they're going to take a 3rd or 4th position, whatever's necessary. So again, if you're a small business that is, you know, and you've sort of maximized some of your debt out there, and you know you've got 1st, 2nd, and 3rd liens on some of your property, actually this is a very interesting loan that is worth going after. So we were in a really strong position when I first put this together. Over the weekend, we were in a strong position. Now, not so much so, because a lot of other states have started to establish disaster areas. But New York is, I think we have had a lot of businesses that got in early, which is great. The decisions are first in and first out, unlike some loan programs. And in fact, you know, if Scope does one, we'll probably do a batch where we'll say, okay, here's a start date and an end date for applications. And then we look at all those applications at one time. This one is first in, first out. So as you put it in, that's where you are in the queue. I can tell you that we have, on Monday, we had, you know, we put one in at 9 o'clock in the morning, we put one in at 12 o'clock, and there had been 70,000 applications put in between 9 and 12. And then yesterday I did 2 for a particular business, and in a matter of an hour and 15 minutes, 23,000 had gone in. in that short period of time. So there are a lot of applications going in. So you want to get this done. They say decisions are made in 8 to 21 days. I think this is a bit aggressive. We'll see what happens, but that is the guidance that we were given, and that the funds are expected to be received between 5 and 10 days after signing. So this is sort of, you're through everything, you've got all your paperwork in, and you're actually at that point signing and sending it in. Then you'll get the money 5 to 10 days after that. So I do believe, and we'll see what happens. This is me reading the tea leaves. So please, this is not part of the guidance that has come down from the federal government. But to give out $2 million, you're not doing it on this loan application that I'm going to show you here in a minute. It's just not going to happen.
So, we have a question.
Yeah.
So it says, with the EIDL, don't you have to have no other option, meaning the SBA is the lender of last resort? It's different for this one, right?
That's correct. That is correct. So that part is, thank you. Whoever asked that question, you're smarter than the average bear. This is one where you don't have to meet that requirement.
Judy,
there
I was on a webinar last night, and I thought they said with the EIDL, you did need to, that was the criteria for anything beyond 10,000. They needed, the SBA had to be the lender of last resort. So not for the first 10,000. Is that what you
okay?
mean?
Okay. Hold on just a second, because I actually have my cheat sheet here.
Yeah, I have mine in a Word document. I can look at mine too.
Well, I actually sent some of this out. So you may have actually gotten this.
So what I have is, you must be in a declared disaster area. You must be unable to secure alternative funding, and that it's been used historically in the past for hurricanes, and it takes weeks or months to get money.
Yeah, so I actually do think that they've made some changes. I do think, though, it's interesting. I actually, it might be on a later slide, and I'm only saying that because I put the slides together, but I've also been having to try and learn the PPP program. And so that's why I'm sort of like, I thought that you didn't have to have it, but maybe you do. Let me get through this just a little bit further.
Sure, sorry to interrupt.
What's that? It's okay. That's why we're doing this. Because I think you might be right. As I'm sitting here right now and I'm thinking about it, I think I just wish I had the cheat sheet that I was. There's my gut, in my soul. I think you're right. I think it is. You have to be able to demonstrate that you can't get funding anywhere else for this one, and that the PPP, you do not have to have that. But
Correct.
that is one of the differences between the two.
Yep.
So if you've already been on one of these webinars, this is good. You can help me. This is awesome.
I was very happy to, there was I have a lot as of 10:30 last night, so I'll fill in anything that I can, but it's with a
perfect
woman who is the county supervisor for the 5th largest county in the country. And she's been on the phone with Fauci and Pence, and it fleshed out a lot of things. So
good.
Anyway,
well, that's awesome.
That helps you.
That is, no. And it's really helpful, because I think that's part of this, the idea of having everybody together. So, all right. So eligibility, have to have a significant presence in New York, because we're a disaster area. You have to have an ability to show that you can repay the loan. And this is what's so interesting, is that originally we had 6 different forms that you had to fill out in order to apply. And so that's what we were doing, was we were helping the businesses with these different forms, and up until Monday. And then on Monday, everything changed, and it went to this really simple, really easy form. And so I suspect, just reading the tea leaves, I suspect that they're going to come back and ask for those forms to still be completed, because they're basic forms that you would need to be able to make any kind of a decision. Because, it's your personal finance, it's your list of liabilities, it's the things that you would need in order for anyone to be able to make a decision on a loan. So we'll see if in fact that's the case. And so that's why I'm saying sort of film at 11. The credit history has to be acceptable to the SBA. So again, sort of some of the guidance I was given is that they will take a look at your credit rating and that will play a strong role in this. And then you have to have less than 500 employees. So you can use this one for working capital. So it's for, fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, other bills. It's not intended to replace lost sales or profits, and you cannot use it to consolidate your debt. So those were some of the guidance that I was given. The application, this is where you would find the application. The 800-659-2955. Expect a long wait if you get through. And then the SBDCs, what's great about this, there's no cost to apply and there's no cost to take the loan. Like, you don't have to take it. You're not forced to take it. And there's support here in Schuyler, and then there's also the SBDCs that can help you. So again, not obligated. That's our website. We have some forms on there now, which I suspect will be required later, but that's what I think. So that's not part of the standard statements coming out of the federal government. And then as with anything, any kind of program, just complete all the forms, complete all the questions, check and double check all your answers before you hit submit. If you hit submit and it's wrong and you've made a mistake, put in another one. Just put in another one. And let it go. And then make sure you check the box for the emergency economic injury grant. So before Monday, well, actually, I'll start there. Any questions so far? Okay, Amanda, you're my chat person. So
Nothing so
okay,
far.
okay. So before Monday, it was this application. We were downloading it. We were filling it out. And you would upload, and you could actually put an entire page of the injury and how you were going to pay it back and what you were taking for steps to be innovative. It was like all the pieces that you need to make a case for a loan. And so the companies that we helped, the businesses that we helped that had already submitted, we checked back with them to sort of see, what did the SBA say to you? And the SBA's statement was, because they wanted to get the injury grant. And the SBA's response was, thank you for sending all your information in. That's fine. We've got it. Go back on and reapply with the short form. So the short form is what's on the right side of your screen. It just has a few steps there, as you can see. At the very top of the form, it's going to ask you if you are part of a larger business entity, meaning are you a subsidiary of something larger? Most of our businesses here are not subsidiaries, so in most cases you would say no. But again, that's something you're going to look at your own individual business. So if you've nested and created, lots of subsidiaries within some sort of a headquarters or an overall company name, you're going to look at that kind of carefully. That's the very first box, the top right, and then you'll start to complete your legal name, and then your business, what you're trading as, and then you'll put in your EIN. You will use your social security number if you are a sole proprietor. And then you're going to have your organization type, and this is a drop-down box where you'll select whether you're a C Corp, an S Corp, an LLC, that piece of it. Has anyone done this so far? That's on the call? Okay. So you're going to want to do this tonight. So you're going to go to this website.
I did it last night.
Oh, you did? Oh, Orlando.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hi.
Awesome. So glad you're on the line.
Judy, I have one more thing. I was looking at my notes on the sidebar here. It says the woman that did this webinar said that essential businesses were not eligible for the EIDLs, which that's what
Makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
And so I wouldn't actually be eligible. I don't know if restaurants would, if they were able to do takeout, or if they would because they're supposed to be closed, or so.
Okay, so that's a little different. So I'm not sure what to say or how to respond to that, and I'll tell you why. the essential business moniker
Mhm.
decision is a state decision. This is a federal program. And so I can see why someone would say if you're an essential business, you wouldn't qualify. And the reason they would say that is that you are technically still operating. So if you're an essential business, you can operate at full capacity unless a part of your line is not considered essential. So for example, you're a manufacturer and you've got 3 lines running toys and 1 line running military gear.
Right.
That 1 line running military, in fact, this was an example given by the state. That 1 line, you know, is considered essential, and the other 3 have to be downsized.
Okay.
I would suggest to you that if you've had any injury at all, even if you're essential or not essential, that you would apply for this.
Will do.
Yeah, if you've had to do any kind of a layoff, or if you can demonstrate that you've had a loss because of this, because that is what this is. So the first left side of this is what you're going to see when you go in. You're going to click on the economic injury disaster loan and loan advance, and that's going to bring you to the page to the right. You're going to click at that where it says click here to apply, and it's going to take you to this form, and it's going to talk about how they've streamlined everything, which is also kind of just interesting. It's really pretty simple. You'll put in your legal name. I said this a moment ago, your trade name, your EIN, your organization type. You will select whether you are a nonprofit or not. But this is where it gets interesting. Do you see at the bottom where it says gross revenues and cost of goods? So there was some conversation about this on our call last night. So gross revenues, it's the months prior to January 31st of 2020. So what we are recommending is that you actually take February 19 through January 2020, and you calculate what your gross revenues were for that. So it's a new year in your head, right? February 1st, 19, all the way to January 31st of 20. So that's your revenue. And then your cost of goods, that's your cost of business. So it's whatever it's costing you. So when you pull out your tax return, you know, you've got your revenues and then you have your expenses. That's what they're looking for here.
Excuse me, Judy, whoever has a phone not muted and there's it sounds like either radio on or TV, it is making it almost impossible to hear you. I don't know who has some other things running, but no one can hear you.
All right, hold on. You got to give me a second as I'm learning this.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Much better, thank you.
All
Yes,
right.
thank you. Now there's monsters.
I know.
Holy moly.
We're good. What's interesting is, okay, let's see what happens. I'm still learning how to mute people, but for some reason, I can tell who it was that was making those noises, but I couldn't figure out how to get them muted. So we're gonna keep going. Okay, so as I said, so on this particular slide, your gross revenues, again, if you can't do that and all you have is your last, your 18 tax return, yeah, use it, but I'm a firm believer that they know more about your business than you do in most cases, because they have your EIN number. So they already have your 18 taxes. So they're going to look. And if you submit your 18 taxes as this, they're going to see that it's probably not that. So I just err on the side that they probably know a little bit more about your business, because that's the only way they could be doing this, is if they're tying your EIN number directly to the IRS and pulling your tax records. So the eligibility verification, again, more than likely anyone on this call is going to select the first, this first button up here, because you're a business with no more than 500. And then you're going to review all of these boxes. So what they're asking you is, are you in a business that's considered sort of a sin business, right? So illegal activity, delinquent on child support. These are sort of character kind of things. And hopefully you will not check any of those boxes. But if you do check some of those boxes, you would be a fun person to probably party with. So I'd like to know that. So, but these are, so that is the next form. And then this is a real, we actually filled this out, and then I took screen snaps of this so you could see it. So we did this, it's a 501c6. You can see we were an other, we are a nonprofit. I did not put our revenues in there. This is one, the rental properties. So the residential and commercial, these are for folks who and if you have income from rental properties and you've lost rents due to this disaster, which really, if you think about it, I don't know if you would have, but you perhaps, you know, folks lost their jobs and had to move. That's a really good example of where this would have impacted, or perhaps people weren't moving here or coming here, and your tenant in your building that you own had to leave. So that's where you're going. And again, you're going to go back to your taxes from 18, or if you finish 19, and look at that before you just sort of pass that by. And then any, you know, the net profit, which again, unless you're a net profit or a profit, a nonprofit, you would fill that out, which we did do. You don't need to worry about the secular social services unless that's what you're doing for faith-based entities, but I would still put a 0 in there, because in the world of technology, if you just leave something blank, that is always a possibility for a problem. So I'm always a firm believer you just put 0 or doesn't apply in everything. And then you'll just put in your address here. And it got a little weird on the phone numbers. It will ask you, actually, let me see, let me go back one. You don't see it here, but I will tell you that it will ask you for your social security number. It will ask you for your primary business number. And if you try and put in something different, it knows it. And don't ask me how, but it knew. I tried to put in my direct line here, it scoped, and it would not let me do it. I had to put in the main line. And same with the alternative business phone and cell phone. It did create a problem. If your cell phone is not tied to your business, it really does not like your cell phone. It will stop you. So you need to know that. And so it was very interesting. Now, again, it could be a glitch that they fixed yesterday, but understand that that absolutely is pretty real. That will ask you about when the business was established versus owned. So if you bought an existing business and the other business had been around for some length of time, you're going to want to put that in there. So again, what you're doing is demonstrating that you have a business that is a going concern, that is probably been around for a long time, and even though you're a new owner, it's been in place. So someone like in Orlando, you're on the phone. You know, this is one where you would have said, when was the business established? You wouldn't say October of 2019. You would say whenever it was that Ted set the business up.
Yeah, and that's what I did.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect.
And then for the phone number thing that you were talking about,
yeah,
it was in red at the beginning, but after I put my full phone number in, it went away. So it worked because I put my cell phone in.
Oh, that's good. I tried it several times. And I ended up having to put in something different. So, all right. So let's talk about the number of employees. This is pretty important. So if you have employees that you have claimed and it's been documented on your IRS form, right? So you have put in that you have employee costs as part of your cost of doing business, then you want to put them here. If you are paying people cash to help them with their, to help them, and there's no real sign, no real evidence that they really work for you, do not include their number here. Just don't do that. So unless you can demonstrate, now if it's a 1099, they're not an employee. They're a contractor, they're a cost of you doing business, but they're not an employee. So I'm gonna stop there because that's really important. Any questions about that?
Is there a place for those who get 1099?
It's going to be in your cost of goods, like in that earlier line where it says cost of goods. It's actually your cost of doing business, and there'll be just a number you're going to put in there, and it'll be the number from your tax. It'll be a number that is all of your cost to run your business, and that's where your 1099s will be.
All right.
Okay. Okay. So then it's going to ask you about who owns the business. It's going to ask you who owns the business, and when it does that, you'll put that in. You'll put in the and you can see here, it really didn't like my mobile number, and I actually have to tell you, I don't think it took it. I think I did a screen snap and it didn't take this, but that's my mobile number if ever needs it. And it'll ask you for a title, and here's the other piece is what I learned in helping a couple other businesses is that if you have two owners, so if you and your wife or you and your husband or you and a partner are 50-50 owners of your business, and that's how you are listed on your tax return, then you're going to fill this out as owner number 1 and owner number 2, and you can't put CEO for both of them. It won't let you do that. So you're going to have to, what I did was actually put other. So the businesses I've been helping, I've said the other person was other, or you can make up a title for them. You can't make it up, but you have to select it from a drop-down box. And so you'll fill out, let me just go back for a second real quick. So you'll fill out this individual owner. At the bottom of the screen, it'll have a little box that'll say second owner. And you'll click on that and you'll put in your spouse or your partner. And then it'll say any additional owners, and you can click on that. Don't get confused. You'll see it. You'll see a big red button that says delete this, delete the second owner or something like that. It looks like you're supposed to hit it, but you're not. I'm not sure why it's where it was, but I can tell you that more than one person has hit that delete button because they thought that it was trying to delete the third person underneath, and it's not. You just hit submit. So not to worry, if you forget this, it'll let you put it back in again. But I can tell you that I've answered a couple phone calls about that in the last day or two.
Judy?
So, yeah.
Before we go on, can we go back to the cost of goods sold? We had this question yesterday and we're having it again today.
Yep.
They're referring to total expenses,
Correct.
not traditional retail cost of goods sold.
That's
So
correct.
Talk
That's
about
exactly
that.
right. It's traditional expenses that you would, it's all of your expenses that you would have for the business. Yep. And then we've got clarified. Yep. Then, thank you, Amanda. And then it, again, ask you some character questions here that you'll answer yes or no to. And then if somebody helped you, and this is also important. So if somebody helped you with your application and they're going to have to be able to answer the questions, you want to make sure that you've got their name and who they are and whether you paid them or not. So if your accountant, for example, helps you fill this out, you're going to want to identify that, or your banker. In my case, what I have said is if I'm answering questions over the phone, I'm not looking at any of their data. And so I should not be on there. But if I'm actually filling it out for a couple businesses, which I have been, if I'm literally looking at they've sent me their tax information and I'm entering the information for them, I feel like I have to put my name and my contact information in there so that I can be contacted. And that's because they want to make sure that you know, someone hasn't misrepresented another, you know, a business. So then this is probably the most important part. So this is sort of the bottom, you know, I give permission to the SBA to discuss this application with the representative who helped me fill it out. Then you want to click this box no matter what. This is most important. And that's for the advance. So the key about the advance is that you're going to put your bank name in there and your account number and the routing number, and they're going to send you an advance. They're going to send you an advance to your bank that you do not have to pay back, even if you're not giving a loan. Okay, I can hear someone.
Yeah, can everybody just make sure the phones are
Can you-
muted?
Everybody turn off their, just mute. There we go. There we go. So that's important to know is, again,
What do you think,
even if you're not,
Gordon?
I can still hear you.
You should probably write it back one more time, I guess. When you look at it if you want.
All right. Can you, everyone just take one more time, look at your mute button at the bottom and make sure you are muted, okay?
That's the one I thought was
Okay.
the
So,
one I advertised as not, but that's-
as with all other SBA apps, incomplete information is the biggest reason for delay. And you have up to 6 months. If you're denied, you do have up to 6 months to sort of go back and rework your application and provide additional information. And then the other piece about this is interesting is that if you take the loan and then you need more, you can apply for an increase, and you can also take this loan, and if you are approved for a Paycheck Protection Program loan, you can roll this loan into that. So you can, that is something that you can do. You can literally roll, so you can apply for both and then roll this one into the Paycheck Protection Program. So
No question, but powers-
I mentioned the $10,000. It's so interesting because what I just did with you, those 3 pages, that's it. That's the application. And that's why, as a business person, I know they're going to come back and ask the businesses for more information, because you can't make a $2 million decision for a loan on what you just filled out. So the advance is $10,000, does not need to be repaid, even if the applicant is denied the disaster loan. And it's designed to be used to pay, sick leave, payroll, any increased cost in production in your business because of supply chain disruption, to pay any of your debts, your rent, your mortgages, etc. The eligibility is you have to have been in operation on January 31st, 2020. And pretty much small business, nonprofits, sole proprietors, independent contractors. So literally employee-owned businesses, literally just about anyone can apply for this. Any questions on that? So that's that's sort of through the first loan program.
I just have a quick question. So if you don't have any employees, are you eligible to apply?
Yes, you are, but you would be a sole proprietor. I mean,
Well,
it depends on,
If
right?
you haven't filed sole proprietor, if you haven't filed the, what do you call it? The DBA certificate. If you don't have the DBA certificate, would you still be able to?
I don't know. Again, just sort of looking at the form and how it was written, I think if you're not an LLC and you're just claiming this business on as an S corp maybe, but that's even on there too. So I guess the question is it a legitimate business? So if it's just an individual, that can't demonstrate, doesn't have an EIN number, well, you need an EIN number or a social security number. So I think that's probably the whether you could or couldn't. So let's just say you're a bed and breakfast, and would you consider, if you're paying yourself, your employees? If you're not paying yourself and you're sort of pulling money out, you don't have any employees. But you would still apply for this because you're a business. So I think it comes down to whether or not you have an EIN number or some form of demonstration that you are a business.
Well, so I'll give you, like, in our situation, we are out of our Airbnb income and we're considering applying for this, but it's my husband and I, with our social security numbers, we file a Schedule E every year. But that just goes off of social security numbers.
It is actually, so I've looked into this because I've been talking to a few people. It's a different form that you complete if you're a sole proprietor. When you go to the website and you click apply for assistance, it'll give you another list. I can't bring it up on my screen, but you will see that it'll say if you're applying as a sole proprietor, there's a different link to do, and there's two forms that you need to fill out for the sole proprietor, and it'll tell you how to submit it. It's not the same process as other businesses to do.
Okay, great.
Yep. Thank you, Amanda.
If I apply, I'll let you know.
Okay, I'll put the link in the chat for everybody.
Perfect.
Yep. So the Paycheck Protection Program. So this program is you go to your SBA lender. So most of our lenders around here, and now I've actually double checked this, including our most of our credit unions are SBA lenders. So they have the ability to do this. So you'll go through an SBA lender. Essentially, you can have up to 8 weeks of your payroll forgiven, meaning if you take a loan out, they will forgive up to 8 weeks of the payroll. They are expecting that 75% of the loan will be used for payroll expenses. As I mentioned earlier, you can apply for both the disaster loan and this, and you can get both, but you can't use the money. You can't use you can't use them both for to pay for the same thing. You can't double dip, for lack of a better term. You cannot double dip. So you can use one for making mortgage payments and other costs, and then use this for payroll. But that's what you need to know, is that you can apply for both, and you can get part of it forgiven, and the part they're forgiving is 8 weeks of payroll. There are some interesting elements to this I want to talk about. Is use it for payroll, healthcare, insurance premiums, and the limitations are they will not. You cannot use it for employee compensation for employees over 100,000. And you can't use it for any employees that are not in the US. You can use it for mortgage interest, but not principal. So, and then you can use it for your rent and utilities and any interest on debt that has happened prior to the loan. What's nice about this one, there's no SBA fees, and SBA fees can be quite, can be onerous. It can be high. You don't realize it until you start to see how they compound over the life of the loan. There is a maximum, and this is also an interesting sort of calculation. It's the lesser of 10 million. So when you hear that it's up to 10 million, it's the lesser of 10 million or 2.5 times your total average monthly payroll costs. So this is really designed to get people back working. And I think the other piece is that there's a minimum of 6 weeks, of 6 months of deferral for the principal and interest. And the financial institutions have the ability to go up to 12 months. So they can do a full year of deferral if they choose to. So that will be dependent on the financial institution. The time frame that you can apply for this is February 15th of 2020. So you can actually backdate, go backwards in time for some of your costs and things through June 30th of 2020. For the amount that's not forgiven, remember I told you that you can forgive up to 8 weeks of the payroll. For the amount not forgiven, the interest rate's 4%, max is 10 years. But what's interesting is there's no loan fees, no prepayment fee, but there probably will be an application fee, then that's determined by the lender. So the Paycheck Protection Program loans are unsecured. They don't require any collateral, no personal guarantee, and there's no showing that credit is unavailable elsewhere. So, and that was why when Amanda asked that question earlier, that's what I was trying to remember. It was this one or the other one. And so this is what the application looks like. So it's not out yet. They're hoping that the banks will have this up and running by the 3rd. That's the desire, is April 3rd to have this available. I think it will come down to each institution being able to figure out can they get this going. But this is a sample of the application. I think what's important is to really start preparing now for what you're going to need for this, because you're going to the bank for this. And you can see right on here, you put in your average monthly payroll and you times 2.5 times, and there's your loan amount. So, and then there's the number of jobs. So you can sort of see that it's a pretty perfunctory sort of application. So what you need to do for employers that have a payroll, you're going to need your previous 12 months of payroll and your related expenses. And I think you probably need to make sure that you've accounted for, wages, cash, tips or equivalent, any commissions, healthcare benefits, insurance, any payment you may have made for vacation. And this would be parental, family, or medical or sick leave for your employees, payment of any retirement benefits that you may have made, and then payment on for state and local taxes. So again, assessed on the compensation of the employee. So you're going to want sort of all of those costs that are related to your employees. And then I think you're also going to need, for those that have tipped employees or additional wages that are being paid, you're going to want to have that as a separate document. So I think that's important. So if you can sort of start, collecting some of that. The other piece, what's excluded on this is any compensation for any employees over $100,000 in annual salary. Anybody who, I mentioned this earlier, anyone who's living outside the US but is on your payroll, and then any qualified sick leave for which they're already getting some other credit. So if you're already receiving a credit for providing benefits to an employee through another program, then you can't sort of double dip. You can't count it twice. For sole proprietors and independent contractors or self-employed individuals, you want proof of payments of any compensation or income. That would be wage, commission, any net earnings from self-employment. And again, it can't be over $100,000 in 1 year, but you can prorate. So it's a prorated piece. Other eligible expenses for the Paycheck Protection Program is interest on the mortgage obligation that you're paying as an ordinary course of business, interest on any other debt obligations that have incurred before February 15th of 2020, rent on a leasing agreement. So you're going to want a copy of your current lease and proof that you had to pay rent. So a proof of your rent paid. And then Payments on utilities, including bills and payments. You're going to want copies of your electricity, gas, water, transportation, telephone, internet, anything like that. So you're going to want to collect all this information now, if you can. If you're going to go into the bank, the smartest thing to do is don't just show up at the bank and say, I want one of these. Pull all this information together. So when you walk in, you're ready to go. So I showed you the sort of the front of the form. This is sort of the commit to good faith. I'm not sure what they call this, but it's sort of the commitment of good faith certification, saying how you're going to use this, and you initial it. So you will initial that you're going to use this in a very particular way. I'm going to stop there. Any questions? Okay. So on Monday, when we did this, the group I was with said, can you do a side-by-side comparison between the economic injury disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Program? And so that's what this is. So you can see, and I'm happy to send this out if you want to put in the chat box your email. I'll have Amanda scribble it down, and we will send this to you if you're so interested. But essentially,
it's on our website, so I'll put the link here too. So if you guys want the link.
Thank you. So the EIDL is capped at 375. The Paycheck Protection Program is capped at 4. The EIDL has the $10,000. And by the way, I haven't met anyone yet who's received this 10,000, but they're supposed to be doing it between 3 and 5 days. So we'll see. The covered period is January 31st, 2020. It's the whole year for us, essentially, almost the whole year. And the Paycheck Protection Program is only open from February 15th to June 30th. So you have a smaller window. And then you can see the borrower eligibility. And this is where, as Amanda Smith was saying, you have to show that you are, businesses are ineligible that have not complied with the previous loan, and that also you have to be able to demonstrate that you could not get a loan somewhere else. But this one's up to $2 million, whereas the Paycheck Protection Program is 2.5 times your total monthly payroll costs for the prior year. So it's your year. And then the interest rate, as I just mentioned, and then the second page, excuse me, is your terms. So the term on the PPP is 10 years. The term on the disaster loan is 30. And you can see the collateral is not required for the PPP, and it is required for loans over 25,000. So I should have changed that. It should be for loans, well, whatever, but there's no collateral for under. And then I'm trying to think if there's any, the applications, this application process, this is the original application process to get this. And that's why I believe they're going to ask for this information before they actually complete a loan with a small business. And you can see what's required on the right-hand side is very similar. It's business returns for the 3 prior years. It's your personal income tax. It's the financial statement, which is the 413. It's your debt schedule, which is the 2202 form. And then there's a 1368 form, which allows you to write your narrative. It's your business description. That's not on here, but you'll have that one as well. Okay, let me go back. So Amanda, that was on, since you were on late last night learning all this, what have I missed between the 2 different programs?
Nothing. That's a really great synopsis, and I love your chart.
Okay, thank you. So the Express Bridge loan, you have to have an existing relationship with an SBA lender. The eligibility period is between now through March 13th, 2021. So you have a year. Maximum loan is $25,000. Maximum term is 7 years. This is what's interesting. Your interest rate, this is a maximum of 6.5 over prime. The financial institution has flexibility on what they want to charge, but this is the cap. So 6.5 is over prime is the cap that a financial institution can charge. There's no collateral. The fees are the same as the SBA 7A, but remember what I said a minute ago when we first started. Right now, for the next 6 months, there are no fees on SBA loans. So understand that. These forms are all different forms that you're going to see if you're doing an SBA loan. And then the timing is, you know, up to 3 months to get the money back. It can be paid. You can get this bridge loan, and you can use the proceeds from your disaster loan to pay this off. And then regular loan products, I mentioned there's a 6-month deferral of fees, principal and interest. And then that's also, that also extends for the next 6 months for any of new loans that you may take out that we've talked about. And then veterans and their spouses, they have SBA fees waived in their loan program. That's a permanent change. That will not change after this disaster goes away. So veterans and their spouses are really in a good place, because the SBA fees can be pretty substantial when you start really looking at them. So I'm going to stop there, because that's really that's all about the loan programs and sort of the grant program that is out there right now that I really want our businesses to take advantage of if they can. Talking about short and long-term impact of unemployment benefits for employers. This is really has not really been hitting the radar screen, and it really should be. So right now, you know, if you apply for unemployment insurance, you get, you know, half of your average weekly earnings if you're an employee, up to a little over $500 in New York. And then the federal government for the next 4 months will tack on top of that $600. So our IDA attorney calculated this and said, look, if somebody makes up to $55,000 a year, it pays them to stay at home and grab unemployment for the next few months. There's no reason for them to come to work. They'll make more on unemployment. And I didn't calculate it, but our IDA attorney did. And so that was pretty interesting. The other piece about this is that if an employee takes unemployment, and anyone who has employees knows this, you have to pay 7 times that amount into your into your account. And the good news is that they understand there will be accounts that are negative, and there will be an opportunity to carry that forward for the next year. So they recognize that this is going to be really hard on employers. So you don't have to bring it forward right away. You don't have to bring it up to bring it positive by the end of December. But you will have a new base rate. So and that's really important. That's why this is important from my perspective. Long-term business viability, you really have to look at what this is going to do to your cost of doing business. So 8.9% of payroll is pretty significant. And so I think they're trying to make sure you don't lay people off. I mean, there's a lot of this is in there to try and make sure that you keep people on. And yet at the same time, you've got this benefit for folks to actually not work. So I think it's going to be a delicate balance when you're working with your employees. So here's a flow chart. So again, our attorney calculated this and said, they can receive as much on unemployment as they would if they were going to work if they're making under $55,000 a year. There is a difference between this flow chart, by the way, is what the Unemployment Insurance Office is putting out to those who are looking for unemployment. And the difference between laid off and furloughed, both will get UI benefits, but furlough generally means the employer is continuing to pay the benefits, and laid off or position eliminated means that the employee needs to go get COBRA on their own. So again, that was some guidance that came from our attorney on that piece. And then this is another chart that's going out again for workers, so that you know this, and that is, are they covered or not covered under the pandemic unemployment assistance? And if they've been diagnosed or they're seeking diagnosis, they're covered. If a member of their household has been, they're covered. If they're providing care for a family or household member that's been diagnosed, they're covered. If they're a primary caregiver for a child that can't attend school because it's been closed, they're covered. And so this is really important. Unable to reach the place of employment due to quarantine, they're covered. Scheduled to commence new employment and can't reach the workplace, they're covered. So they haven't even started yet, and they're covered. They became a major breadwinner because the head of the household died. They're covered. Quit a job because of this, they're covered. Place of employment closed. Self-employed, independent contractors, 1099. So somebody had asked earlier about 1099ers. They're covered. If they are farmers and they're affected by COVID, they can demonstrate, they're covered under UI. So when you hear about all the UI applications, all of the applications going in, I mean, it is unbelievable the number in the United States that's in, and you can see why now. Pretty much everybody is covered. It'll be interesting to see if this is like the largest sort of social program that we've had since the Great Depression. We'll have to wait and see what happens when this is all over. Those that are seeking part-time employment but were affected by this, they're covered. Insufficient work history, they're covered. So the only folks that really aren't covered is if you can work, you can telework and get paid, you're not covered. And then if you're receiving sick leave or other paid leave benefits, you're not covered. So I wanted you to know that, because again, this is a communication that's going out, and as a business owner, you just need to be aware of this. And if you're a 1099er, this is actually good news. So I'm going to stop there because I've been talking the whole time. Usually there's a lot more interaction already. So I'm going to stop there and just sort of see what the thoughts are, how you're coping, any questions, information that you need, because we have been sort of putting things together. We are going to put online tomorrow. Actually, I gave it to Amanda earlier. Our recording of last night, which had a lot more interaction. Our recording from last night, we will have on our website, unless it's already there. Amanda, did you already get it on there?
Nope, I had to reformat it. So I got a notice that it is reformatted. So it will be up as soon as I'm off of here.
Perfect. So it's the same information, but you'll hear a little more dialogue with those that were on the call. Any other questions? Comments? Was this useful in general?
My bad, I didn't unmute myself. Will this also, is the slideshow that you just presented to us, is that going to be a part of what you're going to share? Okay.
Yeah, so what we've done, this is a Zoom call, so we've actually recorded this, and then so that's available, and then we also have the slide, the actual just slides available, so you can look at that as well. And then if you would like any of the documents that are in the slideshow sort of separately, so you have the whole document, I'm happy to make that available. You know, one of the things I'll just mention is that when we were putting these industry roundtables together, we were trying to sort of set it up so that we had like kind of businesses together. So our first one was beverages and food manufacturing, and then our second one was hospitality and personal services. And this one was really designed for downtown businesses. And part of the reason we did that was that downtown businesses have more in common, no matter what their business is, because they're all sort of in a downtown area. And so part of what I am hopeful for is that, and maybe we'll do some more of these, is that we have an opportunity to talk about how are our villages going to withstand this? You know, how are they as individual villages with these businesses in there, how are they going to come out stronger? And how do we make sure the businesses that are on our main streets are as strong as they can be? And then how do we make sure that as they are coping with this, that those that have the ability to innovate, be, you know, kind of pivot, that we're able to help them with that. And I think it's going to come down to whether they are, if they're downtown versus if they're rural, you know, outside of a downtown area. So any thoughts on them? And that was part of what we were hoping to have a discussion around, but thoughts?
I mean, I'll talk a little bit. I'm new to downtown, so the whole thing is, I think it'll be a slow, like it's going to be a slow upgrade, and we're not going to open business. I don't think I'll be able to open the business, and we're going to be booming. That's for sure. One, I'm a small place, so if I open up, if we get to open up, say with social distancing or whatever happens, we're not sure yet. My seating will have to be sparse. Like I can only fit 10, maybe 12 to 15 at a time. So that's one thing, that I have thought about. The other thing is, I definitely know, like, I understand we're in a rural area, and I have a feeling like if people are going to vacation during the summer, they're definitely going to come in and try not to travel too far, but far enough where they can get away from the city life and all that stuff. So that's a positive thing, I think. And I've seen it before. I mean, I've only been up here 12 years, but I've seen it before where people just tend, there was kind of like a little, not like a big recession, but there was a little lull one time when I was up here. I can't remember what year it was, but they would do local travel instead of, flying somewhere. So, and I have a feeling people aren't going to be flying as much because it's going to be more scared of flying than driving. So that's a positive thing I see for the village of Watkins and for, the small business owners that are downtown, but that's just the way I feel at this point. So.
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about last night, and I'll just bring it up here, and that is that, we do have here in Schuyler, we are still going forward with the Festival of Lights, which is a, 4-month silk lantern project. And it's designed to bring in, 80 to 100,000 people. And the company that is producing this, they're the one, they and Grist Iron, those are the two that are going together. The production company is an expert. I mean, they are known internationally, and they do work with Disney and Dollywood and Six Flags and all of these really large entertainment companies. And the one thing that they said, the reason they're so bullish, and this goes to your point, Orlando, they said, Judy, what happens is after there is a situation like this, people will not want to get in a plane. They will not want to get on a bus. They're going to want to get in their car and drive somewhere where there is open space, where it feels clean, it feels open. And so they feel that our location, which is less than a day's drive from Toronto and New York City and Boston and Philadelphia and DC and Cleveland, they actually feel that we actually have the ability, if we can stop from becoming a hotspot, that we have the ability to actually really be that location where people come to. And so they're pretty bullish. So they're going forward. I mean, this is, the feeling is that even if they're not able to start in August and we have to push this to October or November, it would just run from November through February. So it would be in the middle of the winter, and they're pre-selling all the tickets. So they're able to guarantee to their guests that it's not going to be a madhouse. You're not going to be, tight, walking through this thing. So they'll be able to create a very comfortable situation around the number of people walking through at a time, because it's a walking, it's a mile walking path. So I share that with you because it's to your point. Will we come at this thing like a shot out of a cannon? I don't know, but I will tell you this. I know that the chamber Rebecca is working with Scott Bell and some other folks, Liz Stamp and some other leaders here in this area, and they're very focused on how do we really come out of this from a promotional perspective. How do we come out as strong as quickly as possible? And so we're in pretty good hands from that perspective. I think she's got some good folks around her, and she's leading a great team on that. So, other thoughts?
There were just, I just wanted to mention two things. If you missed it with the SBA loan relief, the disaster loan relief program, because the Tompkins Chamber also held the presentation with an SBA, with a representative from the Empire State Development, and they we had the Lieutenant Governor on the line as well. And one of the things they talked about and really emphasized is just the importance of business owners really explaining why it is that they can repay this. So how will they come out of this, or if they have ideas of how, they're working around this, earning money in other ways, that's really important to talk about to the SBA.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because originally that was what was in my first slide presentation that I gave on Monday, was all about where you fill those things out, like what forms you put that on, how you do it. And then the SBA changed the entire process. And so we do have all that guidance that says just what you said, Bronca, which is, you have to describe your injury in great detail, like why you got hurt through this process. And then you have to be able to say, what have you been doing that's innovative to get out around it? And then how are you going to come out of this, and how are you going to pay it back? Like what are you doing? And so, Bronca, I'm going to ask you to share the motel or hotel story that you shared with me earlier this week about what folks
Sure.
were doing.
Yeah, I would love to, and I have an update on that. So we have a local motel that we financed about 2 years ago that has come to an income halt there because of everything that's going on. Cornell is huge, so everybody who's earning an income through that is mostly making all of their revenue around the time that the college kids are wrapping things up, and then you start getting visitors in town. So I was talking to the borrowers who were at a loss with a really large mortgage payment through us, which I helped them defer for 3 months, so until July 1st, to help lessen that burden, because all of their other operating, NYSEG says I won't shut your lights off, but you still have to pay them, right? So financial institutions can step back and let the state, municipalities still demand their portion. At least they can afford to do that. So when her and I spoke, we talked about things that they could potentially do. So I was thinking of doing this for my own Airbnb, is opening the space up for traveling nurses. There's Furnished Finder, that is a platform on the internet that serves kind of like the Airbnb, where you can find traveling nurses to come to stay at your place. I use my space to work from home because I have 2 little boys that fight all the time. So with them being a motel, I suggested that they maybe open their rooms up for medical personnel, for first responders, for traveling nurses, for potentially infected doctors and nurses and other medical professionals and other first responders, to be able to have a place to get away from their families and so we can start the spread and stop the spread in the community. Right now we have 80 cases in Tompkins County of confirmed COVID-19 cases. It is spreading. they're not telling us where, right? But if we can get those individuals into a room and not have to send them home to their families, then we can maybe prevent the spread as much as we can. So they actually did. They reached out to Cayuga Medical Center and are set up to rent to their nursing staff and their doctors and other, really any staff at the hospital is exposed to this virus, whether they're maintenance or janitorial work. So they're opening up their doors to be able to do this. And then also to maybe students that are people here can rent to students that are displaced, students that everybody else is turning away. So they did listen to my advice, and they linked up with our Cayuga Medical Center here and other renting platforms, and they actually have quite a few bookings now. They're doing it at a low rate where it makes sense. Let's not rip people off, right, when they're suffering the most. But let's give them a safe space to stay and sleep. And they have the luxury of doing that because they shut the doors for 24 hours, and then they can go in and disinfect everything before they let the next guest in. So I'm really proud of them for doing that. And I think that is an opportunity for a lot of those kinds of businesses to be able to do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. So I see Aaron. I don't want to put you on the spot, Aaron, but I see Aaron on the call. Do you have any thoughts about downtown? And I know that the chamber reached out to you already, but are you coping okay? So for everyone, Aaron is with Famous Brands, which is one of our, not our premium, probably one of our, I think it is our premium retail in Schuyler. So I don't know, Aaron, I want to put you on the spot because, but I see your mic's open now.
Yeah, I've got kids in and out, so I've just stayed muted to not disrupt everything. But yeah, we were fortunate to get that essential designation so that we could still provide, the work boots and the safety gear for our at this time. So, and it does allow us still to continue our online business and all that. So we're ticking away. It's
Uh-oh. Aaron, can you say that again? Because I don't know about anybody else, but I lost you.
Oh.
No.
No.
Can everybody else hear Aaron?
No, can't hear it.
Well, I think what I heard, the last thing I heard Aaron say was that they were still doing their business online. And what I wanted to ask is if it's picked up, if in fact moving or looking at the online business has increased. That was kind of the question I was going to ask.
Judy?
Yep.
Right now?
Can hear you a little bit.
Okay. Is that trouble? It has picked up a little bit. We did have a nice surge in orders over the weekend, and we decided also to run 20% up to 20% off everything on the website. So we're going to send that out to our local customers, so everyone that we've done business with.
That's good.
That'll keep us going.
Yeah. And have you had to lay folks off?
Yeah. Except our warehouse staff and the small team that does our internet website order and maintenance.
Okay. All right.
So that's been tough. Yeah.
Is there anything that you need that we didn't cover today, for example, that would be helpful for you?
I don't looking into all of the options right away. And my dad's certainly taking that. At this point, I think we're okay. We've got such strong relationships with the local institutions, fortunately. So back with my father on that and let you know, Judy. I appreciate that.
That sounds great. Thank you, and thanks for sharing. So the other person who's probably is going to die when I ask them to ask how they're doing, because I know they're closed, is Jeff Toby. So how are you doing? And he's quiet. Are you there? Maybe he's just listening. All right.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. I couldn't get back to it.
It's okay. Yeah, so that's the question. Are you, and so you have had a business here before, you've got a newer business. Are you able to do any delivery, or are you just sort of closed down right now?
We've just closed down because the customer base wasn't there anymore. You know, nobody's out and about, so.
Okay.
The cost of being open was exceeding anything I was bringing in, so
Right.
we just closed.
All right. Well, then you definitely need to be looking at the disaster loan and the advance, certainly, from that perspective. So.
Okay. Very good.
And then again, if anyone needs any help completing any of the forms, getting ready for the bank, just let us know. I mean, we're not, Scoped is we are a nonprofit. We are a membership organization, but we're not a chamber. So our job is to help all the businesses. We just have members that help us do that. That's what they do. They know when they join that we're going to give our services even across county lines. So I think that's important to know. So please use us. Use us as much as you can. Anybody else that would care to share sort of anything you're doing to sort of cope through this that might be of some value to others that are on the call?
I think that today we heard more about the insurance portion of things like liability insurance. And I think, Orlando, this may apply to you, but reaching out to an insurance agent to see if maybe there are some stop pay options for the liability insurance while you're not open is a good thing. Or if there are any discounts or some sort of a relief there. Give them a call and see what they have to offer. I was on a call today actually with Rebecca, the chamber, and that's what we were talking about there was maybe some ways that businesses can save some money.
Oh, that's good to know, because I honestly didn't even think about that. So, I mean, I know I paid out for like 6 months or something like that, but if they can give a discount, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Because insurance is definitely not cheap.
Right. Well, yeah, it's worth it looking into anything. Like my motel folks are calling everybody, every single place that they have a relationship with, whether
and that's great. Like everybody that I have loans with have been very helpful with me and all that stuff, and we understand the situation that's going on. We had a renter that was supposed to come in April, and obviously we don't have the renter now, so it is what it is. We're working with that person also, because she was coming up for a job. Now she doesn't even know she has a job, so it's just one of those things. Like
right.
Everybody's trying to help each other. So, and that's a good thing. So.
Yeah, I think that most, and I don't know about all the landlords, but we've tried very hard to make sure that the landlords understand that they need to be giving their tenants a break, for their businesses, because the businesses don't have don't have the wherewithal. So we've been sort of pushing that. We've had some really good landlords that literally have said, we're giving our commercial tenant, 3 months of no rent, which is very helpful, especially if you're closed, right? So I think that's pretty important. So any other comments? Because if not, I'm going to go ahead and just say final points, really going back to sort of what's been said. Protect your cash position, inquire about all relief options, and I forgot to mention the liability. Anything at all where you're making a payment that's related to your business, look at that and see if there's any way you can push that off or have some sort of a relief. And then again, if you don't have a line of credit, please go get one. And then just make sure that that whoever you're banking with, most, if not all, the banks have a deferral program now. All of them. I don't know of anyone that doesn't. So so make sure that you ask, because they're not going to call you and say, do you want money? You just need to be proactive and ask them. And then make sure that you reach out to your financial institution if you're looking at the Paycheck Protection Program or any of those other programs. The disaster loan, you do that one online. That's what I went through ad nauseum tonight. But that one you do online, but everything else you're going to go through your lender for that. So so I'm gonna say, is there any other topics that you need information on, or is this helpful? Should we reconvene a downtown group like this in the coming weeks, or do you have what you need now? And I'm really comfortable if you say we have what we need now.
I mean, for the people downtown, it might be a good idea for a few weeks to come down the road, because we just don't know. I think everybody it's the unknown.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm okay with it. I don't know about anybody else, but I know there's definitely a lot more businesses downtown that I'm sure are worried also, but maybe don't know that Scope is there to help them out, or anyone in the area could, help them with some guidance. So.
Right. Well, and this is something where I think you're right. I think that we have businesses downtown that really do rely, many of them rely on drive-through traffic, right? Relying on the tourism. We have a lot that don't, but a fair number do. And I do think that for them, really having a good understanding of what the community is going to do around marketing and promotion to get us back on the radar, I think is probably really important to them. And then quite frankly, how are we going to make sure that each of our villages, they all have different businesses in them, and then they're in different states of, Famous Brands is still operating as essential, but then you have other businesses that cannot. And so then how do we sort of figure out how to get everybody in a position where they're stronger when we come out of this thing? So I don't know if you've got any ideas about how best to reach the downtown businesses. My only mechanism really is, Odessa file and just individual emails. And then putting things through the chamber. I don't have another.
But what about the village? The village itself sends a bill out every month, so
yeah,
they have everybody's information.
Yeah, we can do that. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And I'm assuming that all 4 villages do that. So that's a great way to actually do a village specific session. So I think what I'll do is I'll get with the chamber and just sort of see what they're thinking about. They may not be ready. I'm not going to put them on the spot. They may not be ready to sort of talk about what some of their plans are, sort of coming out of the gate to help us. But I'll certainly collaborate with them and sort of see if they want to do this with us. So with that, if there's no other questions or anything on the chat, Amanda, that you can see?
Nope, I think we answered all the questions that were on chat.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you. Well, again, here's our phone number. All of our numbers are going right to our cell phones. So you can call a local number and get us. And I want to thank you for joining me this evening. And please know we're here to help you. And please fill out your forms. Fill those out. If you don't ask, there's no chance that you'll get it. So I'm dying to see if that $10,000 shows up in our scoped account. Now I'll let you know if it does. So, all right.
All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you so much.
I hope your families are well, and that we get through this. We'll be fine. We just have to get through it. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Judy.
Yeah.